There we go. Internet cut out real quick, but we're good to go. Everybody, welcome in once again. I think this is week 9 now of the Casual Sports Podcast on ysnlive.com. As always, I'm Al Caberna. That's Matt Morrison. That's Mike Wolfgang. Got another full week of shows. Mike's going to be on almost every day, just missing Wednesdays.
Yep.
College football show, man. You're missing the best one.
I know.
That's unfortunate, but...
It might be worth it after this past 3 games.
You might. Fortunately, we're talking about that game here today, so...
We should be talking about this. This is the only bright spot I had this weekend. Was the Cowboys. That's all I had.
We'll see.
I'm kidding.
But we're going to start off the show as we do every other one. Question of the day to start things off. Question from last Friday. Which 2019 Hall of Fame inductee played his entire career with the Chiefs franchise? The answer to that one was, in fact, Johnny Robinson. Question of the day for today. Who was not one of the New York Jets' 4 first-round draft picks in the year 2000? John Abraham, Anthony Becht, Sean Ellis, Santana Moss, or Chad Pennington? Leave your answer somewhere. Come on back tomorrow. See if you can get that one right. We're going to have an NFL show tomorrow, as we always do. And starting this week, we're going to start predicting NBA games and the NHL. And also later this week on Friday, we're predicting the NASCAR Monster Energy Champion. So... they're down to their final 4. We're making our picks for the championship race on Sunday. So we got a full week to go here. So let's get right into it. World Series is also coming up to a close.
We're jam-packed.
Didn't end last night. It almost did. I mean, Braves had a great game, and then it all came tumbling down. The Astros made a massive roll. I mean, Braves were up 4-0 after a grand slam. Get the big home run. And Astros come storming back. They get 9 runs off the Braves bullpen. And now they get a travel day back to Houston, with Atlanta potentially, on their heels. I have the feeling after that big win, kind of feels like the Astros have the momentum now.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that. And after they jumped out to the 4-0 lead on that grand slam, I mean, they were going crazy there and stuff like that.
Duvall hitting that. And then Freddie Freeman came up and hit another home run to make it 5-4.
And Matt, I kind of thought of you because...
bullpen fell apart a little bit.
I kind of thought of you with that part of it because, for the most part, their bullpen's been okay. But like you talk about, Matt, every now and then they kind of have hiccups, which they did in this game. Start out to that big lead and they give it right back. But like you said with the momentum on the Astros side, after getting this win, it is. But the Braves did the job, what I said over on Friday before Game 3 it was. Hey, just get 2 or 3 at home. I mean, they did their job. You're going back. You're still up in the series. You got to get one on the road. They got one on the road in Game 1, so they're capable of getting another one. But the momentum is on their side because you keep that in the back of your head with the Braves. They blew a lead before. They lost the games. They lost the Game 6 against the Dodgers in the last one. I think it was 5. Yeah, it was 5 because they won in 6. So you have that in the back of your mind with the Braves. Like, hey, they can blow this, but we'll see what happens because they can steal one on the road. They did it before.
Yeah, I mean they can, but you also remember last time this team played in Houston, Astros won that 7-2 before they started back in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So I just feel coming off this 9-run victory, first time we've really seen the Astros go big since that Game 2. So both times they've gone big, they've won. So I think the Astros, if they can find one weakness in the Braves, it's the fact that the Braves can't put up big numbers. And we talked about this coming into the series after, they kind of struggled pulling away from the Dodgers in a lot of big games. It was very close. A lot of one-run victories. You saw it. Game 4, they win by 1. Game 3, they win by 2. And obviously, Game 1, they came out and won by big numbers.
Yeah.
But now you're seeing that trend coming back to fruition. They can win close games. They can't keep up with Astros lineup. And I think that was the one thing we were looking at. It's like, I don't know if they can keep up. And I think that's where the Astros, they know now, if they can get those big runs, if they can find, some momentum and just grab onto that, take one pitcher and destroy him in an inning, Braves can't catch up.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, with the Braves, like you said, it depends on who they start in Game 6. We don't know yet. And obviously, it depends on any team who they start. Because we talk about this Game 5 like they just had last night, or this Game 6 coming up. This would have been a game Charlie Morton would have started.
Yeah.
And that definitely hurts them. That's their veteran leader on their pitching staff, and he's probably their best pitcher, and that hurts them in this.
Instead, they had to start Davidson, who was sitting on the couch last week. They had to call him.
Yeah, I mean, they've had to go to some bullpen games, which, it's unfortunate you have to do that, and it taxes your bullpen. Like we talked about, they had a hiccup last night. They were some of these guys are going long innings and throwing high pitch counts. Like Minter, Matt, I know you like him. He's the guy they usually bring in. Brought in last night. He's one of the higher leverage guys that comes in big situations. But like you said, I look at their lineup in this because I talked about all year. We all talked about during the postseason. The Astros lineup, it's just like that.
It's lightning, and right now Atlanta's hoping not to be Thunder come in second place there, but it was announced Fried will be up on the mound for Atlanta in Game 6. He started in Game 2 when they lost. He had a big loss in that one, fell apart.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Houston knows what he's going up against. But I think on the same side of that, Fried knows what he's going up against. If you see this team, a week apart, a lot of times pitching takes the advantage in Game 2 because they saw everything you got in Game 1. It's a real battle back and forth. It's one of the best head-to-heads I think when you can ever get. When you get a pitcher coming out for the second time in a series, especially after he got fried in that first appearance.
Yeah.
Second time, they come back with, a chip on their shoulder, and they go full force ahead. So I'm interested to see if, he can put that Game 2 aside, come out in Game 6, and help his team to a World Series. I mean, if he becomes the pitcher that does it and goes 6-7 innings in this and dominates the Astros lineup, he becomes an Atlanta legend at that point.
We've seen pitchers before perform bad in the series and come and bounce back. Perfect example of that, the 4 days in October with the Red Sox, Kurt Schilling had a horrible first game. Then he came back with the bloody sock game and pitched 7 straight shutout innings. So it's possible to bounce back.
Yeah, and you look at the matchup for this Game 6 kind of. You talk about Fried. He didn't have a good outing his last outing. Garcia, he didn't really pitch well. I think he pitched Game 1, and that's the game they won on the road. So it's a battle of guys that had didn't have great starts in both their one starts in the series.
Game 2.
I think did he start in Game 1? I believe he did.
But
yeah, they did take. I'm talking about Game 1. I think he pitched Game 1. But either way, I mean, this is a big game for Max Fried. You got to bounce back. You're pitching in that ballpark you pitched in when you got kind of roughed up. So if I'm the Braves, honestly, this is Game 6. You're up in the series. Just throw everything. Go all hands on deck like they pretty much did last night. It didn't work. Do it again. Just keep throwing everything out. Show how much you want to win this because anything happens in Game 7. You're not in your home ballpark for Game 7. So just worry about this game and throw everything out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it is from here on out, both sides, it's one and done. This is a one-game format, basically. Unfortunately, Braves have to play. I mean, Astros would have to play that format twice. They want to take the series. Braves just like, hey, we could take one of these next 2. We win it. And you get pretty good odds when you go, okay, we only need 1, they need 2, and there's 2 games left. Most teams will take that odds, and obviously you want that 3-2 lead coming out of your homestand. You would have loved to finish that at home in front of your fans that want that championship so bad, but now you get to go do it in front of the Astros fans, and sometimes I think winning that championship on the road, celebrating in front of all those fans booing you, there's just something about it, right? You come in and play the bad guy in that home stadium. Like the entire world is rooting for Atlanta, and they get to go be the bad guy in the one place rooting for Houston.
But you know what? One of these Game 6, or if it goes to Game 7, don't count the Braves out because the last time the Astros won the World Series, they played the Nationals. They lost all 4 home games. They lost Game 1 of this series, so they've lost 5 of the last 6 home games in the World Series. So they can do it, and they already did it in this series. So just like I said, go all in on this. Just quit messing around. Let's get it done. Like you said, let's win it on the road in front of the visitors' fans. Let's get it done. What's that?
I was reading the comments here. Jet says, "Go Cowboys, Mike."
Go Cowboys.
Yeah,
how about them?
What's the green guy's name from Shrek? Shrek?
Yeah. You're getting trolled, Matt. But let's move it into the NFL. Pat, you're just stop. Oh. You're making it worse, dude.
All right.
Stop. Cincinnati Bengals somehow lost this. They decimate the Ravens the week before, and then they lose to the New York Jets. Matt wears the Flash Gordon costume, and they bring in a backup quarterback from outer space in Mike White, and he wins the football game with 405 yards and 3 touchdowns. Michael Carter, another guy who really is no big name, puts up 77 yards on the ground, gets a touchdown. He also has 95 yards receiving. And this was just a game I don't think anybody expected the Jets to have. Obviously, they played well against the Titans.
Yeah.
But after the way Cincinnati's played all season, they were looking like they were going to take control of the AFC North and start running away. And then they just go... 21 to 34 from Joe Burrow, 259 yards, 3 touchdowns for him.
Yeah.
Once again, though, the one thing I keep saying about the Bengals, rush game too inconsistent. Joe Mixon has just been up and down all year.
And I'm not... I'm pretty surprised they lost, but it's like, you're kind of not because they're still a young team. And like we talked about it before the show, they're playing the Browns next week, so they might have been overlooking this game. That might show some immaturity in the young guys. You got to get past that. They're still maturing, and it's as good as they are right now. They still, they beat the Ravens, but they still have some ways to go. But Yeah, I'm surprised the way the Jets' offense looked. We haven't seen it all year. And the backup quarterback, like you said,
Right.
threw 400 yards.
I mean, I think everyone expected with those Zach Wilson was like, oh, God, this is going to be worse.
Yeah.
And it turns out to be better. And I think perhaps some of those Jets fans are going to start going, hey, I like this white guy better than Wilson.
Yeah.
No, let's not do that.
I mean, they both their
Jets
last
fans
name
are naive, so.
both their
They
last
are
names
naive.
start with W, but one of them is able to pick up one in his first ever start. So the guy's cocky. You know, he said back in 2018, he said, Peyton Manning, I'm coming for your records, comes out here and has a better debut than Peyton Manning did in the NFL. So this guy, he's got that cockiness, and I think he liked that, at least out of a backup quarterback, thinking that he's always going to be the guy. And I think when you call on a guy like this, who just, hasn't gotten reps, hasn't gotten snaps, no one knows who Mike White is, has the most generic name in history, Mike.
Yeah, really.
Sorry, Mike.
That's a common. It's,
Yeah,
it's a good one, though.
Everybody
It's Mike
likes
White. Like, come on, that's generic.
Everybody likes Mike.
Yeah. Guess what day it is? It's not Wednesday. It's
Everybody wants to
Monday.
be like Mike.
Everybody wants to be like Mike.
Well, at least you're not Matt.
What is wrong?
Not the M&M squad over here. But Mike White, I mean, great day. And I was just saying, I think you love the cockiness from a guy who just comes out there, wants to be the best. When you call on somebody in desperation mode, and they come out there and put up 400 yards as a backup quarterback, you go, all right, I'll start taking phone calls. Here's my agent. Who wants me this offseason? Saints? Potentially. There's a lot of teams out there that I think could use a cocky quarterback.
And really, Alec, I mean, look at the confidence they showed in him. He threw it 45 times.
And completed 37 of them. I don't care if that's checkdowns
Yeah.
or slant routes. The fact that you can call in some guy that hasn't played in the NFL and just he does that, and then kicks back and goes, all right, I'll see you next week.
I mean, like I said, they let him throw 45 times to a receiving core. Like you said, we really don't know a whole lot of them. The only guy we really know is Jamison Crowder. I mean,
And Elijah Moore was
Yeah,
great coming out of Ole Miss, but
Yeah.
I mean, he was a draft pick, and you never expect them to have a great season ones, and especially with a rookie quarterback of their own and Zach Wilson, so it was kind of like, well, don't really expect anything out of this squad, and you get
Look at the receiving
four
yards.
guys
Yeah.
over 50 yards.
I mean, look at that. They all produce in some way. They all had several catches and for good chunks of yards. I mean,
Don't forget about this great tight end, Tyler Kroft.
You're right.
He only got 2 receptions, but he gets 20 yards out of it and a
Former
touchdown. Yeah, former Bengal. He's a great red zone target. He's great on those out corner routes. He's a very shifty and quick tight end. He's like a smaller, less fast version of guys like Kittle and Kelsey. He fits that similar build, not exactly to their level, but he's a great guy. And if the Jets continue working on and Mike White stays their quarterback, I think he's going to find Kroft more often. He already got a touchdown in the red zone.
Yeah.
He can become a great target throughout the rest of the field to really open up the Jets' offense, because you see it. Not a big rushing game, they got to go in there. Not a great passing game, they got to go in there. So you can just keep adding on to that and eventually get a defense in New York. This is a squad that under Mike White looks like it could be a team.
and even if you, I mean, again, they drafted Zach Wilson. He's going to be the starter going forward. But keep this guy.
Mike
You don't
White?
think so?
I like Mike White.
gonna get
I
on
like
that
White.
quick?
I mean, I know they're
White?
going
That's
to
one
go
game.
back. I know
That's
they're
one
going
game.
to go back
But you
to
want to see him
Zach
start
Wilson.
somewhere.
I want to see this guy start somewhere.
I agree.
Washington needs a quarterback. Mike White. Well, why not? Heineke hasn't done anything. He lost to the Broncos. I mean,
There's teams out there.
there's a lot of teams, and you even look at a squad like the Saints, who's using an older Simeon as their quarterback. Jameis Winston out for the season now. They need somebody. I mean, there's a lot of teams even in the need of the backup. But you look at the Broncos. Teddy Bridgewater, clearly not the answer. Mike White. There's so many guys out there
And
teams
Alec,
out there that need
in a
guys.
year this year in this draft where there's not really many great quarterbacks. I mean, you really don't know who's gonna. I heard on the radio today they were talking about the Lions. It's like they're so bad and they feel bad for them because there's really no quarterback that they're gonna take that's gonna make them that much better.
Right.
It's probably like defensive end type year if you're picking number one. So for teams out there, you want to need a quarterback to take a look at this guy because there isn't really. If you're going to find somebody, it's going to be later in the
Right. I mean, I can think of a team just down the road from here that's going to be in need of a quarterback after this season. Mike White.
Pittsburgh. No.
Mike White to Pittsburgh.
No, I don't know. It's just this one game. Let's just go from there.
Yeah, one game he played better than Zach Wilson has in 5.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think you at least have to look at that one fact. He's 26 years old. He's mature. This is a guy that I think you can at least rely on that maturity, not to, get too high on himself. And, he played last week against the Patriots, put up 200 yards in that game and an interception. And 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions in that. So you can see a jump from game 1 now into game 2. And this is a guy that I feel like he brings a set of mojo to the Jets that they just didn't have. And obviously their defense got absolutely smothered against the Patriots.
Yeah.
I mean, Patriots had 54 points in that. Offense didn't stand a chance no matter who was their quarterback. They could have had Tom Brady and, Jerry Rice as their wide receiver. It wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
Because the Patriots were just perfect in that game. But I just feel there's something with this guy. And that's something that the Jets haven't been able to say before.
And honestly, give the Jets credit for as bad as the year they've had and that they are having. This is a bright spot because last week you get blown out by the Patriots like you just touched on, and then come back and beat a good Bengals team with a backup quarterback. Yep. I mean, give him credit.
And now I think Zach Wilson might be, feeling a little bit of heat in that cherry sitting.
But you know what? Maybe he needs that. Yeah. Honestly,
light a fire underneath.
Like we know, we pretty much know he's gonna. They picked him in the top. What? He went second.
Yeah.
I mean, you pick him second. He's going to be their star going forward. But maybe he needs this though. A guy in his quarterback room that he went out there and did it too. I got to go out there and prove it. So maybe that lights a fire under Zach Wilson. Like I got to start playing better, regardless of their scheme. You want to play in coaching all you want. They don't have talent around them. You got pick number 2. You need somebody to give you motivation.
I mean, that you do, and we're still waiting to really hear exactly how long Zach Wilson's going to be out. He was dealing with a PCL injury, so, I mean, that can affect a lot of things and can affect your throwing ability sometime. You're a little wary to go on your knee if you know you have a bad injury like that. That can, turn into something a lot worse very quickly. He avoided the IR as the Jets were throwing around guys, so there's still a chance he comes back these next few weeks. But I think the Jets at least have to like what they're looking at right now. They can tell Zach Wilson, like, hold on, just go ahead, take your time, come back. We think we got something here.
Yeah, and like I said, give him some competition.
And potentially, if anything, I think we're coming up here on the trade deadline as well.
I was just going to say that.
Teams could be coming out going, hey, we want Mike White. They go, all right, what do you got? You got someone on defense right there? We need that.
Yeah, we'll take
got another wide receiver?
We'll take an offensive
running back, offensive lineman?
Yep.
I think for once you can say the Jets maybe hold a few cards. They haven't been able to say that in a long time.
Yeah,
they hold the cards here right now with a guy like White and Wilson. So... Next game up on the slate. It was unfortunate, and as the boss DJ Yoke was saying earlier, if the Browns wide receivers could catch as good as us Browns fans talk, they'd probably have won this football game by about 30 points. Browns couldn't catch anything. Baker was on the money. He had a few overthrows, but he put some balls on the dart. He hit Dearness Johnson directly in the chest as it went through his hands. Jarvis Landry gets the 2 biggest drops of the game. It frankly blows any chance of the Browns winning it. I mean, he drops it on, I think it was like back-to-back passes that both hit him directly in the hands. I mean, Baker was great. I don't think you really saw any sign of him dealing with a torn labrum. He was great, 20 of 31, 226 yards, but no one could catch in the end zone. No one was able to really do anything. The ground game sucked. This was the worst game I've seen out of the Browns all season. And I think you have to give credit to the Steelers' defense in this. And, I've said on the show multiple times, I have nothing against the Steelers, but I am a Browns fan. But this was just a game, I think you just look at it, it was like, Steelers dominated defensively and the offense did enough. I mean, Najee Harris had a great game. I'll give him credit, nearing 100 yards. And obviously, I think the one downside to look at the Steelers, the idiotic play calling making Chris Boswell throw a football.
Yeah.
It was like...
That's where... And then he got hurt.
Then you play the whole second half without a kicker, and they were afraid to even kick the ball, and they still got out with the win.
Right, and that was the entire part. If you look at the second half, obviously with no kicker, they went for it twice, and they didn't get it.
Yeah.
They weren't successful on both 2-point conversions. So I think as much as you want to go, oh man, the defense just didn't hold up. They only allowed 15 points.
Yeah,
they did their job. The offense just forgot to show up, apparently. I mean, Big Ben, 22 of 34. He was picking apart the Browns' defense. Claypool just looked unstoppable whenever they gave him the football. And obviously, Deontay Johnson, Matt, you and I were talking about him earlier. He's blossoming, apparently, into what is looking like your number one wide receiver. And then, obviously, Pat Freiermuth in the end zone. That was an amazing catch by him, and he keeps that streak of no drop passes in the end zone.
Tight end. He didn't really drop a lot at Penn State, and that's why they drafted him. They needed a guy to catch in the red zone. Last year they had a problem with that with Eric Ebron. I mean, even now, they don't even throw it to him much.
They've been finding Freiermuth more and more
Yeah.
every game. It seems
Yeah.
Big Ben, I think he even came out and said a few weeks ago, he was just like, we got something special. I think he was talking to a, who was it? He said it might have been, I think it was Bettis. He was talking to Jerome Bettis. He's like, you would have loved this guy, man.
Yeah.
This is one of those guys, don't matter what generation he played in, this guy is going to be something great.
And that's what the Steelers do. Like, with Najee Harris, they draft Pat Freiermuth. Like, Mike Tomlin he loves bringing old players, like Steeler legends into the stadium and say, hey, sit down with these guys and talk to them. Like, Najee Harris, sit down with Jerome Bettis and talk to him about how he played the game. And, I said this about Pat Freiermuth. A lot of Steeler fans I know are like, why'd they pick a tight end in the draft? I mean, you needed one.
Yeah.
I don't know why people were acting like that wasn't a need. And you have a guy like Pat Freiermuth who's one of the best tight ends in that draft. Why not take him when he's there?
And he catches the only touchdown pass of the day.
Yeah. I mean, Matt, I'm surprised you don't have his jersey yet. I'm just kind of
I'm getting
disappointed in
there.
you.
I'm getting there.
He's saving up. Jerseys are
Get on
expensive.
that. They are expensive. I know. I'm broke too.
Got $11 in my bank account.
Oh dear, man.
I'm not too far off, honestly.
Well, I think we're all about that area. But defensively, I mean, Joe Schobert lit it up in his former stadium. Unfortunately, 6 tackles, 3 assisted. J.J. Watt was playing in the backfield a lot. Him and Hayward were getting back there. They didn't get to Baker line. I mean, those two combined for 2 sacks, but Wormley got a sack. Loudermilk got a sack. So they were getting back there onto Baker Mayfield, and he played a great game. Baker, I don't think you can really take anything away and say, with this loss is on him. I think as much as media members are going to try and put this on Baker Mayfield for not making the big throws at the end of the game, but it wasn't on him.
Yeah, which they are. I heard it all morning on sports shows. But, like you said, the running game wasn't able to help him out, and that's something we're not used to seeing with the Browns.
Just 96 rushing yards for the Browns.
Yeah, and I knew this was going to be a low-scoring game, close game, because, outside of the playoff game from last year, these games are normally close between the two teams.
Yeah.
But, in a game close like this, when you have a quarterback that's playing with one arm, your running back's got to be able to help him out, and they weren't able to do that yesterday.
And this is just one of those feelings as well. You got into this game, you were just like, man, is Baker going to be able to do anything? Baker did fine. It's just Browns have loaded up at every position, but it seems like in the biggest games, those biggest stars, they play like a rookie third rounder. They just don't compete.
That's why, that was my biggest thing coming into the season with the Browns. And I'm not saying it's over at all. I'm just saying we expect a lot more than 4-4 out of this team at this point in the season.
Especially with the way they started, too, going up against the Chiefs team we thought was great.
They almost won.
They almost win that, and then, the close game against the Texans was like, ooh, I don't know. But then they come back big against the Bears. They, the defense plays great against the Vikings. They nearly beat the great Chargers. Then they get blown out by the Cardinals. Then you get a weird game against the Broncos with backup quarterback. Here against the Steelers. Questions kind of keep adding up now, and it looks like, nearly 4 straight losses for Cleveland in these last, 4 games. They avoid 4 straight with the Broncos win with Case Keenum. But it just seems like with everything they brought in, they still can't get enough. And I don't know what the answer is. And if I did, obviously, I wouldn't be on this show. And I'd probably be sitting in a nice apartment in downtown Cleveland overlooking the Lake Erie. So if I knew the answers, I'd let everybody know and I'd go make my millions. I don't. They just need to play consistent. And I don't know how they have to build that from here on out.
In the passing game is a mixture of Baker and the receivers. I mean, you talked about it before the show, you were talking to DJ about it. When it comes down to it, when they're in red zone and near the end zone trying to score, they can't catch anything.
Yeah.
And, their running game gets them there, but, you can't run it every time. You got to be able to pass it. And it's like, I'm not questioning him, but it's like, is Odell's head in it? Or, what's going on?
Butterfinger Beckham was what I was calling him during that game.
Is a connection off with him and Baker? Is something bothering him? Every time he's healthy, nothing's happening with him.
I think there's stuff going on off the field.
One catch he had yesterday, come on, it's Odell Beckham. And you talked about with Jarvis, he couldn't, they get down close to the goal line, he couldn't catch anything.
He couldn't catch anything. Baker was hitting his guys on the money. He had a few overthrows and, a few ones were like, ooh, you got lucky there. But he was under pressure instantly. This is the worst the offensive line has played. I think we kind of knew that coming into it with the strength of that Steelers defense. So, it's adjustment time for the Browns, and they don't have time to adjust. They got the Bengals coming up. So now it's, go balls to the wall. Let's go. Come on.
Find something here. Get back to practice. You can't fix it.
It's going to be a rough week in practice, and if it ain't, shame on Stefanski.
You got to keep going at this point of the year. There's no time to slow up. These games keep coming. You're in the middle part of the year. It's time
and as we said with the last game, trade deadline's approaching. Do something.
I'm not trying to make stuff up.
A trade. If one of your guys isn't going,
I think
going well.
The one thing I was thinking during this game was like, man, if I think the one piece that you can move, you can feel confident in, Kareem Hunt. I think you can move him with the way Ernest Johnson has showed up. I think you can kind of feel confident and go, well, maybe I can see what Kareem Hunt is worth on the open market. I'm not saying trade him. See what the value is, though.
See what's out there.
They got some guys that I think they have enough pieces behind. I mean, they have a loaded tight end room that they haven't been using.
Yeah, exactly.
Go see what a guy like Harrison Bryant's worth out there. They love Njoku. I don't think they'll move him. And Hooper is a great guy. I think those are the two guys you keep. Go see what a guy like Harrison Bryant's worth. Add in there Kareem Hunt to that. Maybe see. Just feel the market on Odell Beckham.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Maybe see if you can get obviously, the reason I would trade Odell, and if this is what I would want for him, get somebody good on defense. Because, like you said, you still have good tight ends. You have some other receivers that can fill his place. I mean, obviously not
Schwartz, he hasn't played.
Yeah.
I mean, you go with the defense, though, for the Browns in this game. They only allowed 15 points. And keep in mind, they lost their starting safety in this game. Denzel Ward wasn't playing, and I believe one of our corners went down as well. So the fact that all those injuries held up and they still only allowed 15 points, I think says enough about the defense. I still think it's an offensive problem for the Browns.
And obviously with the defense, too, you touched on the injuries. That is, they haven't been playing well, but it's hard when they normally have...
The defense, I think, has been playing fine. It's the offense that hasn't.
And they normally have, 1, 2, 3 guys hurt on defense every week. So it's just a matter of getting it back. But, it doesn't hurt to have one more defensive guy. If you want to trade Kareem Hunt, like you were saying, see what he's worth, see what Baker's worth. If you can get a piece there and get a good defensive guy, I mean, why not?
Yeah. I think the Browns just need somebody that can catch consistently, and they don't have that. We have to move on, though. Another game coming up here. Patriots, they have been kind of on a roll recently, and obviously they win against the Chargers yesterday 27-24, coming off, obviously, the big win over the Jets with 54 points. I mean, then they lose by 6 points to the Cowboys week before, and they beat the Texans before that, lose by 2 to the Buccaneers. So you look at their losses this season, they're just a pretty darn good team besides the Dolphins. But obviously losing to the Saints, who doesn't look like a terrible team. They've just been dealing with some crappy injuries so far. Seems like one of their stars is down every week, and obviously Winston's gone for the season now. But I think you got to start looking at the Patriots right now. Bills might not be sitting so happy anymore. They're like, finally, Brady's gone. The division's ours. And here Belichick's just sitting there smiling like, just wait, buddy.
Just wait. This season's probably one of their only open windows because next year
Belichick's going to be fighting right back with them.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this Patriots team, I'm not guaranteeing nothing, but I'm pretty confident that they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, I talk about their defense every week. Look what they did against the Cowboys. They really haven't been in too many blowout games. Yeah. Other than the one they won, but it's they only gave 6 points in that game. Yeah. It's against these good teams, good offense. Like yesterday against the Chargers, they always find something. That's Bill Belichick's style. He always finds something against these good offenses. And
it's not winning big either. We're going to make this a tough, quiet game. We're going to bring this right down to it, and we're just going to beat you in the end.
You have all these NFL stars that are drafted first round, and then you got Bill Belichick going to colleges like Western Kentucky, finding guys like that. And you know who came from Western Kentucky? Mike White.
And so, I mean, with the Patriots, you gotta love it because, I talked about
those small schools.
Yeah, and you combine what I said about their defense, and you have to love what Mac Jones is doing so far. He's the best quarterback. So I mean, everybody else is playing pretty bad, but he's the best quarterback out of the ones that were drafted this past year. And like we talked about, he couldn't have gone into a better situation. He's playing very good right now for a rookie.
I mean, it's kind of the same situation that Lamar Jackson was dropped into, right?
Yeah.
It was a good team that he falls later in the first round, and they just. Patriots, I mean, they're not a bad team, I don't think. I mean, they had every piece. No. They just kind of had a down season because they were able to get a little bit higher in the draft. Maybe it was a tank year. And they pick up a guy named Mac Wilson who falls right into a perfect situation for him. And Patriots have been rolling right along. And, man, as you said, year 2, Bills might not be looking so hot again. Granted, Bills still probably are the best team in the AFC. So
that might be NFL, but
in the NFL, potentially. I mean, Packers, I think, are right up there challenging them, though. So don't count out Aaron Rodgers. John Wick is in the building.
Dude, that costume was.
Now, can he shave that hair now? I don't like that hair on him. Can you get rid of that? That's not Aaron Rodgers. It just doesn't look good.
I mean, on the other side of this, Chargers, they've obviously had a great season. This is one of their few down games. I think you've let it slide. They're 4-3 now. They need to come back. They got the Eagles, Vikings, and Steelers the next 3 weeks with the Broncos following. So they have a series that I think very easily can go 2-2, but also 3-1, 4-0 in these next 4 games. Chargers are in a good stint, but they need to play more consistent.
I was going to say.
Avoid the turnovers. Just get back to the way they were playing, a few games ago. And this team's going to be just fine. No reason to hit the panic button for the Chargers.
No, not at all. I mean, they started out good. They're like what I was saying about the Bengals. They're still a young team. They're still inconsistent. You got a young quarterback, both in their second year. They're going to be fine, like you said. They've shown flashes with their offense. They can do a lot of things. Maybe you could be a little concerned about their defense getting stops or something. If you want to be nitpicky, but they're going to be fine.
Yeah. All right, one more game here in the NFL weekend that wraps up here today. The Giants at 2-5 take on the Kansas City Chiefs at 3-4 tonight, 8:15, and potentially what might be the worst Monday Night Football matchup of the season. So we get a great offense, at least on one side, going up against a defense that ranks 13th, and the Giants' offense sits at 24th in the league, and they're taking on the 23rd ranked defense. The Kansas City Chiefs have been allowing 32 points per game so far on the season. And keep in mind, last time these two teams met, back in 2017, it's been a while, Giants won 12-9. So this might be something that you turn off before it hits halftime because it's just that ugly. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
It's like, you're talking about the matchup. They've been kind of okay with Monday Night Football this year. Some good matchups. We actually had a good Thursday night game for once. We had a Packers and Cardinals. Then they give us this the next week on a Monday.
Yeah, next Monday is Steelers Bears. That one will be good.
That'll be a good one. Yeah.
But a lot of people are coming in on the Chiefs. They're still thinking that the Chiefs are. I mean, the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl, but people are still thinking, they'll bounce back. They'll bounce back. It's not looking very good. They're 3-4 right now.
I'm not ready.
I'm not saying the Giants are gonna beat them. I'm not saying that they won't. So, but a year ago, this Chiefs team would be like, no question whatsoever, they're gonna blow the Giants out. Now this is a questionable game.
I think it's still no question because Saquon Barkley and Kenny Galladay both out for the Giants.
Okay, never mind.
Saquon, I think, is the big chance for the Giants to get something going, but once again, the biggest bust in the NFL running back department can't stay healthy again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's a great running back, and I don't think you can deny that. But if you can't play, you're worthless in the NFL.
So, again, I'm not saying this because he's a Penn State guy, but I think I have a different definition of a bust. Like, it's not his fault he's getting injured. Like, if he goes out there and just stinks up the joint, that's a bust in my mind.
Yeah.
Like,
even when he plays, though,
you're right.
He hasn't shown any signs of life.
You're right, and on a bad Giants team too, but it's...
Yeah.
I mean, flip this over, go NBA. Greg Oden was supposed to be, the big guy coming out of Ohio State. He plays great, and then injury. Oh, he comes back, plays great, injury. And everyone for the past decade have called him a bust. And one of the biggest busts ever in the NBA draft. That's Saquon Barkley. He plays, he's good, but he keeps getting injured. And I think,
well,
that qualifies you as a bust. If you can't come out there and play, you're worth nothing, and they spent a top 10 pick on Saquon Barkley for him to play a third of the games in the year.
It's
I'm not denying.
That's why that's a bust.
Listen,
I'm not denying any of that. I'm just saying, to me, in my mind, a bust is like, hey, you go out there and stink up the joint. Like, we spent a top 10 pick on you. You can't do anything. Like, we wasted our pick on you. That's a bust in my mind.
Like Josh Rosen.
I don't think Josh Rosen ever got a chance.
He really didn't. Nobody really ever wanted him. Any team he was on.
That is true.
Yeah.
But still.
But anyway, with the Chiefs, let's get back to the game. Are we done with it? Or?
No, we got to make predictions here. I'm taking the Chiefs. No Barkley, no shot. So
they got to get going with Sterling Shepard though, and Tony as well.
Go ahead and put it in. I'm not taking Giants.
Yeah.
Well, we're all taking the Chiefs across the board here for Monday Night Football. What?
I don't like them, but they're gonna win.
Yeah. Well, it happens. One team that did win that you don't like, and you don't like. My Buckeyes, they took it 33-24 in this game.
Listen.
And Ohio State, they did enough. It was probably their worst performance on the season in terms of, they just felt unable to do things sometimes, but didn't matter because Travion Henderson still had 152 yards and a touchdown, despite the fact that all you heard in this game was, and a gain of 2, a gain of -3. It didn't seem like he was able to move, and he still accumulates 5.4 yards per carry. And as much as you say C.J. Stroud, man, he didn't feel like he did anything either. 22 of 34, 305 yards and a touchdown. He didn't make any mistakes. It just was one of those games that defense stayed strong on both sides, and they really made it difficult to just move the ball consistently. And if it's not for Jackson Smith and the Jigba just catching everything, he has been a hidden gem this season. I think you kind of saw it coming last year. You saw signs of it coming off behind Jameson Williams. They said basically Jameson Williams got the boot out the door, and he's the number 1 wide receiver in Alabama. And Jackson Smith and Jigba sitting here like, well, okay, I'm going to take that spot right up, and I'm going to go perform and become a number 1 pick in the NFL draft. Because he was phenomenal in this game, and I've been loving him this season, Matt. He's like you were saying, he's one of your favorite players on the team. You don't like Ohio State, but he's one of your favorite players in football.
He's awesome to watch, though.
I mean, you got to give him credit. No matter what team you like or dislike, you got to give him credit. And like you said, it didn't feel like they really did much offensively. 33 points, because that's how we're used to them seeing.
Player do in this game.
Huh?
I have my other favorite player.
Seven Banks. He was okay 2-1, but he's not a guy that's going to get a lot of tackles. He's getting pass breakups, and those don't always show up in the stat categories. But I think you look at the Browns this game, once again led tackling by Ronnie. What?
You said Browns.
Probably be on the Browns someday. They love taking Ohio State corners for some reason. Ronnie Hickman once again led the team in tackles, 6 tackles, 8 assisted. Cam Brown got an interception which was a nice surprise. He's been a young corner this season. Obviously, I believe he's a freshman or a true redshirt freshman. He's had a great season so far as just a rookie, and I love what I've seen out of him. He's that next big cornerback star coming out of Ohio State. And you look at Denzel Ward, was obviously really the last big one that you really feel in the NFL, but they've had a few before that as well that have been lights out. And I think you kind of feel the same thing with a guy like Cam Brown. Tyreek Smith got a sack. Ransom got a sack. Antoine Jackson Jr. was in there for a half sack in this game. And obviously you had JTT getting back there for a sack. His only tackle today comes on Sean Clifford and Gayotate the fourth. I don't remember how to pronounce that name. It's Pele Gayotate.
I can't even try.
I heard it on the radio, and Matt and I just looked at each other like, what was that name? He got half a sack in this. The one quiet side from Ohio State that I think was the surprise, Haskell Garrett, the offense line did a great job neutralizing the rascal.
And PG4.
And like you said, Alec, it's like with the guys like Henderson, it's like, especially in the first half, it didn't feel like he did anything because I don't know what Penn State found in the first half, but they were stopping everything that they were showing on the run.
They forced Noah Ruggles to be the guy to win this football game, and he gets 4-4 on field goals. Longest was 35, so the offense was able to get there. They just weren't able to finish, and he gets 15 points, and Ruggles was on the money and also pretty much sealed the game out. He iced it in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, and that's what Ryan Day was talking about at halftime. Like, hey, you saw him going for it on some fourth downs. Like he wanted to get us some points because Penn State's defense was playing good, especially in that first half. And they were able to hold Chris Olave. Other than that big breakout catch he had for that big touchdown bomb, it's like they were able to keep him in bay. So they were able to find some things, but Ohio State was able to make more plays.
Was really able to capitalize on Penn State mistakes. The fumble,
the scoop and scoop. That was something. As much as you can't say, anytime a D lineman picks up the ball and takes it back. Matt, you and I were in the booth down there up in Cuyahoga Heights, which we're going to talk about on Wednesday's show. And I pulled this game up as we were getting into halftime, and I see that one. I just throw both my fists there and go, woo!
I'm sitting in front of you. I turn around and you're like,
I'm like, all the people in the press box turn around and look at me, and I just go, scoop and score, Buckeyes!
Anytime you get that.
This press box had like 12 people.
Oh, it was packed in there.
Packed.
Yeah.
It was packed.
I was lucky to have any space. You were sitting there with the coordinator from
one
Valley
coordinator
Christian.
on my left, one coordinator on my right. It was insane.
It was a packed press box. It was a fun game, though. Sean Clifford, I think he was better this week. He still doesn't look like he is able to move as well on the ground right now, and I think you're still kind of waiting on that to come back. And I think just the ground game for your team is just so bad. You're forcing Clifford to throw it 52 times. That's not going to be successful.
And for throwing it 52 times, only one interception, I'll take that.
Yeah. If they played like this last week, they would have beat Illinois.
Well, I don't care about that anymore. It's like they were asking James Franklin those questions like, hey, what was wrong last week that you were able to do this week? He's like, I don't want to talk about last week. It's over.
It is over.
It's a terrible loss. I mean, again, I'm tired of the moral victories of this team, but like,
they gave
you gotta
them
be
a
fine
battle.
with this, I guess.
This is the closest, besides the Oregon, this is the closest anybody's gotten to beating Ohio State.
It's really the only challenge I've had since that Oregon game.
Yeah. Penn State is no slouch. They always put a tough game against anybody.
I mean, yeah, I think you do look before this and you go, Ohio State, what was the hardest defense they faced? And I mean, you could say Indiana, they put up 54 in that game. Maryland was, an undefeated squad. They put up 66 there. And Rutgers was just a one-loss team coming off a close 7-point loss against Michigan. And Ohio State blows them out. So I think there's a lot of people coming into this, they go, including myself, I was like, I think Ohio State puts up a lot of numbers, but I think Penn State keeps it close. Ohio State didn't put up the numbers in the scoring category. They put up stats everywhere else besides the scoring, much like I thought they were going to. I thought they would get another touchdown or two in this game. But Penn State did exactly what I thought. Kept it close and put up a lot of question marks for the Buckeyes. And I think a lot of people coming into this game, as I said before last week, they were going to say Ohio State really was going to blow this one out. It's not going to be close. I'm like, Penn State always plays it close. I thought Ohio State was going to do a little bit more, make this 2.5 possessions rather than, 1.5. I thought it was going to be a little bit more of a spread here, but...
Yeah, and here's my thing with it. Like you're saying, I joked with you the week of the game, like, hey, they're going to get blown out. I didn't think they were going to get blown out. I was confident Penn State was going to lose, but 19.5-point spread, that was way too much for this game.
Yeah.
These games are always close. Even, they always pull away at the end, but it's always close. I love Penn State's red zone defense. They got how many stops in this game in the red zone, and they've been doing it all year. But it's a matter of like
4 field goals.
It's a matter of like Ohio State's defense. They go to scoop and score. It's like Penn State isn't able to get that. They're able to get stops in the red zone. They bend, but they don't break. But it's like, hey, let's get it. Let's help out the offense, like we said before the game, because
that's what Penn State had to do, was help out the offense. And I think that's one of the things you actually haven't seen from Ohio State this season was the defense showing up, and that's what makes a great football team, in my opinion. Having the ability when the offense is down. Complementary football. The defense makes the big play instead of the offense always having to make the big play and always having to put up 50 plus. Having the defense come out there and go, all right, you guys are having a down day? My time to shine. And that's when you see a team take a step from being great to being elite. And that's why you have teams in the Big Ten that say, we're great, but we're not Ohio State elite, because they don't get that every single time they play. There's always something wrong, and there doesn't seem to be complementary football in the rest of a lot of Big Ten teams, and that's where we still see that separation gap with Ohio State in the next 5.
And it's like, the years they lost back-to-back games by 1 point against Ohio State, the last couple years hasn't been that close. This year was close until the end. They break away at Ohio State, but they're still right there. As much as there's a lot of questions I have with Penn State, as much as I get disappointed with them as a fan, they're still right there. They're probably the closest in the Big Ten right now to Ohio State, because
just had a couple of
we'll find out in a few weeks.
Again, we'll find out with Ohio State. Ohio State has 2 tough games. I'm not saying they're going to lose, but they're 2 tough games they have to get through.
We still have some tough games too to prove. Like, hey, we're all right. They got Michigan and Michigan State.
Well, you know what, Matt? Before we move on, because I know we got to get going on this, but
still got Maryland next week. Who I just have a feeling. I know you guys already had your trap game with Illinois.
It could be another one, I know.
But I think it could be another one, especially with looking ahead here to Michigan in the week after. I think this is one of those games you look at and you go, ooh, that might be a trap here. Just when you look at what's coming up, you get Michigan and you go, all right, we get Rutgers, then we get to look at Michigan State.
So don't take Rutgers lightly.
Right, I think just with this final 4 games on the schedule, you start getting to that teeter-totter territory here with Penn State on. Don't look ahead and don't get trapped in the moment of losing, back-to-back games now, or 3 straight games actually. So it's still a sticky slope right now for Penn State. We'll see what happens.
Well, and like I said, it's they lost this game. I'm tired. I'm not making excuses there. I'm tired of the moral victories of this team. Like, hey, they played close, but you didn't win. That's what matters to me. You didn't win, and it's like they have the rest of the games coming up. I was encouraged with the way they played. I'm not going to discourage that. They played very good, especially on defense, like they have all year. They have 4 games left. Let's play good here. They'll probably lose another game or 2. They have still have tough games coming up.
There's some losses that they should be ashamed of. Like Iowa and Illinois, they shouldn't be ashamed of.
I'm not too ashamed of Illinois or Iowa loss. Just really the Illinois ones.
Yeah.
Well, now it looks bad.
Yeah, now it looks bad, but we're moving on here. 2 of the final opponents for Ohio State met up. Michigan State, little brother reigns supreme. Giving it out to all the little brothers out there. Stay strong, go green in this one. I was so happy. Yeah, got the green one.
Yeah.
Gotta rep it as any team that beats that team up north, especially with that in-state rivalry. I'd love it. I don't like Michigan losing too much because I want Ohio State to be the one to upset their great seasons. It's just wonderful to do. But anytime Michigan State does it as well, it's always something memorable. And this was a great game. Kenneth Walker, 197 yards, 8.6 yards per carry, and then this one. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. 5 rushing touchdowns on the ground for Kenneth Walker.
He's a beast.
What a monster game, and that's your Heisman
He's a front
moment.
runner right there.
I think out of any team this season, that is the best performance we have seen out of one player in the Heisman race.
Yeah, this performance and throughout the whole year he's been consistent. Like you said, Matt, I might even give him the Heisman right now.
Yeah.
If he's
Right
not
now,
the favorite,
yeah.
he's top 2.
He needs to be, and I think especially with all the hype Michigan defense has had, once again everyone goes, oh man, look at this defense. This is tough. This is gritty. This is old school Michigan football. And Michigan State comes in, oh, you're old school football? Fine, we'll roll around it on you. 5 touchdowns. Take that, big bro. Take that one.
They were down and they came back in this game.
Why don't we mix your 2 colors, maize and blue, and we'll come out with the better color, green. You know? Michigan State took this one. They took it, you know? This was a game they wanted more. They were trailing in that fourth quarter. They get 15 points, 15-3 in that final stand, and they take it. And I think you give Michigan State all the credit here. And I think right now with the college football playoff rankings coming out Tuesday, this is a team that if anyone in the Big Ten right now is ranked ahead of them, is ranked ahead of Ohio State, it's Michigan State.
And Alec, here we go. Like you just
Absolutely.
talked about, it comes down. I talk about it with Penn State, with other teams in the Big Ten. I'm talking about it with Michigan right now. They still have a chance. They have to be. They absolutely have to be Ohio State if they want to do anything.
Well, Matt and I were actually talking about this when coming back from our Valley Christian game. We had a long drive. And we were listening to Ohio State on the radio. We were like, Michigan's only chance now is Ohio State beating Michigan State, and then Michigan beating Ohio State. Michigan State would then have to lose again as well.
Which how do you have confidence in? They haven't been able to do it the last 10 years.
Michigan State is no longer Michigan is no longer in control of their own destiny. 2 teams sit in control. It's Ohio State and Michigan State. Everyone else is waiting. Sitting around and waiting for these 2. And that's going to be the biggest matchup of the season.
Yeah, and
Ohio State versus Michigan State.
And right now it's Michigan State in the Big Ten East. I mean, they're the guys that are in first place right now. That's what everybody's chasing.
And obviously our rankings aren't coming out till Wednesday, the night or the day after the playoff rankings come out this Tuesday. So we should get some exciting things, and obviously we'll get to compare ours to the actual playoff rankings. And finally, throw the APs out the window. They were terrible this week. I don't even want to look at them.
This week has been terrible all year, dude.
This was one of the worst ones ever, though.
It has been, but there's been
they have
very,
Ohio
very bad
State
ones.
beating a top 25 team and falling in the rankings, which was dumb. Yeah. The fact that Penn State loses 3 straight and they only dropped from 20 to 22 was, I think, a bit of a question mark as well. And the fact that Wake Forest has gained no respect for dominating the ACC like Clemson normally does is also, pretty disrespectful in my opinion.
And Pitt should still be ranked, by the way, I think.
Pitt, yeah, I know.
They were 17. I don't see them dropping out when they lose. Miami stinks, but it's like they were in the top 25 for 2-3 weeks. I don't see taking them out.
No, I don't see that whatsoever.
Well, as always, I picked my group of 5 game for us to talk about on the show. I picked another good one. Fresno State pulls the upset over San Diego State Aztecs. None of us picked it, but 30-20, the Bulldogs take it. And a lot of people saying, is this the best Bulldogs team in the country? No, we still have Georgia, so stop that. I saw that somewhere, and I was like, please, just be pulling my chain, because that was ridiculous. But this was just a fun game. Once again, those group of 5 matchups are always something to look out for, especially with the strength Fresno State has shown this season. They got a good run. They got a tough game, though, coming up again. They got Boise State. It's at home, though, so Fresno doesn't have to play on the bashful blue. And, I think this is a potential trap game coming off the big win against San Diego State. We've seen a great Fresno team. This is a team, you go back, week 2 of the season, they nearly pulled the upset over Oregon. That's why a lot of people were questioning Oregon going into Ohio State, was because they win by 7 against a team like Fresno. So this is a Fresno team that also beat UCLA. So this isn't someone you just back off against. And I think you at least like what you're seeing right now at Fresno. Obviously, they're not going anything big, but they're going to get a nice bowl game out of it. And I think it's just a fun team to watch for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and they squeezed one out against Nevada too a couple weeks ago. Nevada's usually pretty strong.
Yeah.
They battle with some teams. Yeah, you gotta like what Fresno State's doing.
And Fresno and San Diego State probably both favorites to win out the season here. So, they're going to finish off pretty well. But at the moment, that allowed Fresno State to take the lead in the Mountain West Division. So, they're going to be in a good spot now. As long as they win out, controlling your destiny, win the Mountain West, and, get the preferred bowl game. So,
yeah, and it's fun at this time of year to keep track of these, not Power 5 teams. To see the races in their conference like this.
Yeah, their races are for the conference championship. Sometimes you see, like, SEC, it's like, does it really matter who win the championship or not? We want the actual college football championship. That other one's just another of 20 on our shelf back home.
Yeah. So
I think that's where you get the group of 5. There's actually something fun come down when you got there's potentials for upsets every week in Group of 5 football.
Yeah, and they'll get good bowl games, but
Cincinnati was close again.
Exactly, and they'll get good bowl games. There's no guarantee they're going to win their conference, but hey, let's get in the bowl game. But it's important to these teams because they don't really get that, and like you said, it doesn't matter to some other teams that win it every year. So it's good for them.
Yeah, that is for sure. But let's move on here. Some NBA to finish out the show here. Last 10 minutes going on. We're going to take a look at the NBA standings. Currently, the 6 teams that sit in the guaranteed spots. Obviously, way too early to look at this for playoffs. But the Knicks are in first. The Bulls in second. The Wizards in third. Miami Heat in fourth. Hornets in fifth. Philadelphia 76ers in sixth place. Over the Western Conference, Utah Jazz are in first. Golden State in second, Denver Nuggets in third, Dallas in fourth, Minnesota in fifth, and the Los Angeles Lakers still somehow in sixth place despite their awful start. But the bottom of the West right now, it's kind of a lot of good teams that shouldn't be there. So we'll see how the rest of this season shakes out. But I want to ask the question, who is, at the moment right now, our biggest surprise of the season so far? Who are you most surprised with? You're like, all right, they're having a good year. I'm surprised that they're doing that.
You gotta go Chicago here.
I was even going to go Washington.
Go Washington, too.
I think both of those were some really good picks, yeah.
Washington after losing, Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, but like I said, the time of that trade, they got a good haul.
Yeah.
I'm not, 5-1, it's still early, like you said, but I'm not surprised the way they're playing good because they got a lot of good pieces in there. You got Kuzma and Harrell, and you got KCP. Mix that with the other guys they already had. So they're a pretty deep team, too. I looked at their roster and their bench. They're pretty deep.
Well, I think on the other side of the conference, I know they're only 3-2, but Minnesota, the Timberwolves, this is a bottom feeder the last 4 or 5 years. They have a good haul as well, and obviously Anthony Edwards, they got Big Cat up there. They got a lot of guys playing in Minnesota, and they're putting together something nice. They sit in 5th place. I think it's just kind of like my big surprise right now is to see the Timberwolves not sitting in last place, and obviously I think this is a little hometown bias. I think we have to be a little bit surprised with the Cavs. They've been playing it pretty well, and they've gone up against a lot of tough teams. They've lost a few games that they could have won. I mean, this is a team right now, 20 points go the other way, spread out through those 4 losses. It's a team that can be sitting right up there with teams like Miami and Charlotte and the 76ers. They could be, they're right now they sit on the edge of that play-in tournament with still a long ways to go, so that'll change up very rapidly as the season goes on. But they sit right there with some big teams in the mix. I mean, you look right now, better record than Boston and Detroit, and a little bit worse record than Atlanta, Brooklyn, Toronto, and same record as the defending champions, the Milwaukee Bucks. So I think it's a good spot right now for the Cavs to be sitting in, especially when we talk so much about those first 20 games.
It's a great spot for them to be sitting, and especially this 5-game road trip that they're going to conclude tonight. Like I talked about with you before the season started, like, hey, if they can get past that, they'll be in a good spot to start off the season. And, them being right here right now, it's like you said, it's surprising that it's happened this early. But this was my best case scenario.
Sit about 500 through these first 20.
Yeah, which is that's the goal right now.
Kind of what we're sitting at, right?
It's still baby steps. It's still baby steps with them. Sit around 500, and get around the trade deadline if you need to pick up a piece. Make a run towards the playoff because they have talent right now to do it.
They have it. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
They have experience on the bench with Rubio and Love, who played together in Minnesota, so they know how to play together.
Yes.
Clearly, I mean, despite the fact they haven't played together in 6 years, they seem to have a rhythm going on.
It seems like they never lost it.
I like Love coming off the bench.
But how about on the flip side? We said biggest surprise in a good way. Who's the biggest letdown right now? Because there's a lot of them. I mean, you look at teams like the Clippers, who sit at 1-4. Phoenix are 2-3, but still early for them. But on the other side, the Indiana Pacers were another team that were in the playoffs up there competing as well. Orlando Magic, Boston Celtics. There's a lot of teams that should be great that are kind of crap in the bed. So what's your big letdown right now so far?
I mean, you touched on Phoenix. That's probably where I'd lean, but they're 2-3. It's still early with them. I'm not really surprised with the Clippers. I mean, they play good. They play good without Kawhi in the playoffs. Made a run, but they're still missing the guy. So I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about when they get him back, how good he'll play. But in the East, maybe the Bucks. I mean, they had a tough loss the other night against the Spurs. I saw that at
Minnesota beat them too,
and they had another loss too. Yeah, so maybe the Bucks in the East. You look at the teams at the bottom half of the East, like Detroit, Orlando. We knew those were going to be the bad teams in the East.
But
I'm surprised about Indiana, like you said.
I think Indiana's really the biggest shock so far. There's a lot of teams that you're like, whoa, what's going on? I think Indiana's number one, considering they also have the leading candidate now for the Rookie of the Year. And don't forget about Domantas Sabonis. And Duarte, the rookie, has been great. They have some great pieces, and obviously they made it to the playoffs last year, so you just start wondering, man, what's going on in Indy? Especially after they made some coaching moves, and now you get to the season, you're like, man, nothing's happening there. And 0-4 on the road. Obviously, they've had another tough start, playing 4 games already on the road, just 3 at home.
Yeah.
But they got to turn this around quickly because 1-6 to start the season can quickly turn into 2-12.
Yeah, and it is a letdown because they have some guys playing good, like the rookie. You still have Sabonis. You still have some other guys around them. Playing team last year, like you said, you add Duarte to this. I know we're talking about the letdowns, but you can even go back to the surprises. Look at the Raptors; they're 4-3.
Yeah,
You know, Scotty Barnes is playing good for them, and you know, people weren't really expecting too much from them losing Kyle Lowry. They still have some other pieces from the championship team, but like that's a surprise too in a good way.
Right, and I mean, I think we're still at the point of the season where we're waiting for some of those big stars to come back in and start playing again. They're dealing with the offseason injuries, the offseason bugs, all that. We're still waiting on the re-debut of Zion for what seems like the 3rd straight year. We're waiting for him to start the season late. Like last year, he didn't get in. I mean, first season doesn't get in until January, which was like 2-3 months late. Now again, he's missed the first 7 games already. His team starts out 1-6, and obviously you're just like, man, come on, we want to see this guy play. Obviously, you want him to be healthy to do it, and you just start wondering, is it the training staff in New Orleans that can't keep this guy healthy?
It might be.
Because the fact that this guy just keeps getting injured year after year, he comes out there, plays like Prime Shaq, and then every time they get a week, a couple weeks off, it's like, oh, well, now he's injured again. It's like, well, what is the training staff doing if they're not keeping this guy healthy? He's your superstar player. The team should be investing in him.
You look at the training staff, and I can even go back to, I know we were talking about it earlier. I go back to the Giants. They don't keep Daniel Jones healthy. They don't keep Saquon healthy. So do you make a change in that department too? I mean, you say the same thing what you're saying about New Orleans. When your stars are hurt every single year, at least once or twice, in football, basketball, any sport, you got to look at something. Something's going wrong.
Yeah, well, it is, and unfortunately, we're just about out of time here. One final segment to go. Matt, I hope you're ready, and I hope I don't mess it up once again. But this week's Beast of the Week, baby!
I gotta go with, we've been talking a lot about him this whole show. Mike White, the New York Jets. That's unbelievable what he did. Came in, first start. His parents had tears coming down their eyes. The whole stadium was shouting his name. Unbelievable performance.
What was it, 400 yards, 500 yards?
405.
405.
It was a great performance from him.
Awesome.
And
hey, you could have given it to Cooper Rush. He was a backup too.
he played pretty good as well.
He played pretty good.
And we'll talk about that game tomorrow and why Dak Prescott's now overrated because of it.
No,
but that's going to do it here for this week's start of the Casual Sports Podcast. I'm Alec Caberna. Go Michigan State. Go Ohio State. Keep sucking at Michigan. That's Matt. That's Mike. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.
Bye.
How about the boys?
This beast.
Adios. So long. Sayonara. Signing off from Youngstown. Casual Sports Podcast. Once again.
Live from the courtyards.
Live from
They don't know where we are.
Couch.
Peace out.
Yeah, we're not in the courtyards.
We're not.
We're in the Enclave.
Yeah.
Peace out. Adios. Signing off. Tschüss. That's how you say goodbye in German.
Oh, nice. I'm German.
You learned something from that class?
Yeah, right. Adios. I know that one. Say goodbye in Hawaiian? You've been down there.
Yeah. Aloha.
Oh, that's
It's hello and goodbye.
Oh, what a word. Oh, aloha.
Aloha.
But what's
the goodbye version?
Ciao.
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 See, I learned something in Italian class.
Yeah. Ciao, Mobile, or
Whatever.
I don't remember how to say goodbye in French.
You don't, or you do?
I don't.
Oh.
That's unfortunate.
You taught me something in German. I'm German. I didn't even know that.
There you go. Well,
let's keep going.
peace out. Casual Sports Podcast. Send it off here from Youngstown.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can get into hockey if they're going to keep us on.
Oh, hockey. Nah, we'll wait.
We're definitely out of time here. Sending this off for Power Hour. Up next on YSNLive.com. More playoff games coming up as well this weekend. Make sure to stay tuned. But that's going to do it here for the Casual Sports Podcast. Adios.